Hello friends, welcome to you all once again. My name is Harshit Dwivedi. This is one of my other lectures of polity in which we will discuss the Charter Act of 1833. So now I am going to discuss the Charter Act of 1833. In previous lectures I have told you about the Picts Act of 1784 and the Regulating Act of 1773. This one is the Charter Act of 1833. After this, we will discuss Charter Act of 1853, Government of India Act of 1858, Indian Council Act of 1861, Indian Council Act of 1892, Indian Council Act of 1909, and features of the Act of 1909, Government of India Act of 1919, Simon Commission, Government of India Act of 1935, Independence Act 1947. So there are many other acts which we have yet to complete, but now I will take up my lecture more point wise. So in this Charter Act of 1833, I will tell you everything point wise and I will speak a bit slowly. So if you want to jot down, you can do that. So before telling you the main points of this act, the very first thing that I want to tell you about this Charter Act is that this act was, you can say, the final step, final effort of the British government to establish full centralization in India. So the first important feature of this act was that the Governor General of Bengal was redesignated as the Governor General of India. I repeat, the Governor General of Bengal was redesignated as the Governor General of India, and all the civil and military powers related to the country were vested in him. So, the first Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. So, in the history of India, till now, it hadn't happened that such a central government or a central authority was formed which had total and absolute control over the British possessions or British territory in India. By placing the Governor General of India and vesting in him all the civil and military powers, he was made powerful equivalent to a president or a prime minister. We can say that the whole powers was vested in him. So this was the culmination, or we can say the final effort of total centralization to be established in India by the British government. Now, due to the redesignation of Governor General of Bengal as the Governor General of India, vested in the Governor General of India exclusive legislative powers for the entire British India. And as a consequence of this, the Governor of Bombay Presidency and the Governor of Madras Presidency, their legislative powers were being taken away. So the point is that Governor General of Bengal and Governor General of Madras, these two designations were eliminated. So now only the Governor General of India had entire control over all of the British possessions in India. So this is the reason we say that this was the first central government which had total authority on all the British possessions of India. And this was the first time that the laws that were made under the Charter Act of 1833 was termed as acts. However, the laws that were passed and made in the previous Regulating Act and in the Pitt's India Act and other small acts, they were termed as regulations. Now we will come to the second characteristic feature of Charter Act of 1833. So the second most important characteristic of the Charter Act of 1833 was that the commercial function power of the East India Company was snatched away from it. It meant that the activities of the East India Company as a commercial body in India was finished, and East India Company was totally converted into an administrative body. It was not a commercial body now, it was an administrative body. And it was provided that the company's territories in India or the British possessions in India were held by the East India Company in trust for His Majesty, his heirs and successors. Indirectly, we can say that this meant that the officials of the East India Company or the Court of Directors will govern and will administer the day-to-day functions of the political affairs and other affairs, but they will do it keeping in confidence His Majesty, his heirs and successors. Now the last and the third characteristic of the Charter Act of 1833 was that the Charter Act of 1833 tried to introduce a system of open competition, for the recruitment of civil servants who can help in the daily administrative and political functions of the country. And this act also stated that Indians should not be stopped from appearing in that competition or holding any department, any office, any employment under the company. So this Charter Act of 1833 tried that the Indians can be included in the decision making process of the country. However, this attempt was not successful, as it was totally negated from the opposition of the Court of Directors. Court of Directors, that is the governing council of the East India Company, totally negated this provision of introducing a system of open competition for selecting civil servants and allowing Indians to appear in it and hold any office or department under the East India Company. So these three acts were the main provisions that were covered under the Charter Act of 1833. In short, I will repeat them again. Charter Act of 1833 changed the designation of Governor General of Bengal to Governor General of India, and he was vested with all civil and military powers. The legislative powers of the governors of Madras and Bombay presidencies were being snatched away from them. And Lord William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. The second characteristic feature was that East India Company, according to the Pitt's India Act of 1784, was a purely commercial body. Now it was not a commercial body but an administrative body. And all the territories of the East India Company were being administered by it in trust for His Majesty, his heirs and successors. And the final Charter Act of 1833 tried to introduce an open competition system for recruitment of civil servants, and it also stated that Indians should be allowed to give or appear in this competition, and they should not be stopped from holding any office, place or employment under the services of the East India Company. However, this provision was not implemented as it was vehemently opposed by the Court of Directors, that was the governing council of the East India Company. So friends, with this we finish all the provisions of Charter Act of 1833. In my next lecture, I will cover provisions covered in the Charter Act of 1853. So, thank you friends. My name is Harshit Dwivedi. We will meet in the next lecture.